Hello guys. So we're gonna start a series of online lectures. So this is week number 8. Week number 7 it was midterm, and in this week number 8 we have two lectures, lecture 7.1 and 7.2. In this two lectures we're gonna see forms, JavaScript forms. Alright, so I'm gonna dissect, I'm gonna create videos, series of videos of 15 minutes each or shorter, because I tried longer video and I ran into troubles with the uploading. So many people are uploading, so I'm gonna cut short my videos into smaller ones. So let's start here. So I'm starting on 31. Alright, so forms. Just checked whether I'm recording. So JavaScript forms. So in this lecture 7.1, we're going to talk about the forms and how we send data to the server, get data from the server. Okay, so how the user communicate with the server. But before that, we're going to talk about the progressive enhancement, which is a methodology of developing web application so that, or technique to develop your web application in a way to maximize the number of your end users or clients. Because you know, web application is supposed to, you deploy it to many users, okay? Hopefully you will gain more users, but you have to think about those users or your clients. They have different technologies, okay? And they have different computing devices. You have no impact, or you have no control on what they have to choose or what they have to use in order to run your web application. So you must make sure that your web application can run on different platforms, on using different browsers, old browsers. All right. You might also think that some of your users might disable their JavaScript. So don't go and develop a fully fledged web application where the main or everything is JavaScript, and at the end you will end up with those users who will not benefit from your web application, and consequently they will just leave your website. Alright, so this is what you call progressive enhancement in web development. You always start with the features that are supported by most of your client environments, and you're gonna add in an incremental way, progressive way, those extra functionality or extra features. So in a progressive enhancement, the step that you have to take is a chronological development, if you like. So the very first step is to make sure that your web application is having a robust and a sound structure, means the content, the HTML. And remember, HTML can be rendered and processed by any browser, even the old ones. So HTML, you have to concentrate on developing the structure using HTML. And at the same time, also, if your web application is interactive and you're going to collect data from your users, send them to the server, process them, and give feedback to your user, for instance, login or registration, you need to code with the server-side scripting language like PHP or ASP or even Perl. So the very first step is start with HTML and server-side coding. And this will constitute the core functionality that can be understood or is supported by almost all browsers and platforms of your end users. Step number 2, you're going to add some styling. So you're going to use basic CSS. And in step number 3, you're going to make sure that your web application that you were using or developing and testing on your favorite web browser, you're going to make sure that it's going to run on other web browsers. Guys, remember Internet Explorer? So you have to test it on different web browsers and even some old versions of web browsers. And the last step, and this is really kind of sugar coating. This is really like fancy, or adding fancy or fancy styling and format. So you're gonna add modern CSS like transitions, animation, and advanced JS features. All right. So having okay. By the way, those were the steps that you have to take in your web project development. Now there are some rules of thumbs that you have to observe here while doing this progressive enhancement. So remember, the structure or the HTML can build the structure, and the HTML elements, they are semantic, they carry a meaning. When you say H1, I mean a heading, and I mean the main heading, and it's already formatted. It's already to EM, meaning 32 pixels, 16 times 2, and it's already bold. So don't try, given H1, don't try to give it an ID and try to reformat it or restyle it using CSS. All right, so CSS is not for building structure. Another rule of thumb is, of course, you're gonna use some. I mean, as a web developer, as a professional web developer, you're gonna use forms a lot, and you're gonna collect data from your users, and you need to clean up the data. You need to sanitize them, because users can enter anything. They even can enter malicious input. Okay, remember, guys, those malicious users, aka hackers. So what you have to do, you must not use JS alone, JavaScript alone, to validate the data and secure your web application. You're gonna use JavaScript for this purpose as a first step. You have to rely heavily on the server side to validate your users' data. The server side, in our case, we're gonna use a PHP. All right. So that was the progressive enhancement in developing a web application. Now we're gonna go to the forms, JavaScript forms, and this is the gateway to your server. So users will get into your server. I mean, they will really send their data to your server. In your server, you will have a PHP or ASP or any scripting language to process them and get back to them, like e-commerce web application. So the form is extremely important, and it's an interface between your users and your server side, your database, if you like. And for that, the form, we have a form, HTML form, and it's like any other HTML element. It has an ID, it may have an ID, a name, many things, many attributes, but the two most important ones are the action and the method. And it's a container, of course, it's a form. It has many control or form elements. I'm going to talk about the action and the method later on, all right? So the form elements are also known as the fields or the form fields. They will carry, or they are the elements that the user will interact with, and they're going to enter data, check boxes, choose options, and the data will travel to your server. Your HTML control form elements, they have name, ID, value. They can have other attributes such as a class, type, and many more. But the very important one, if you want really to server-side process the data or collect the data, is to use the name in every element you want to collect data from. We're going to see an example shortly. So the form tags or the form elements or components, we have many of them. The most important or the well-known one is the input. You have text area, label, field set, legend, options like in the select, okay, menu options here in the select tag. And guys, it's your responsibility to revisit these tags. We have seen this last semester or last year in the HTML CSS course, so it's really easy to review, to go through them. All right. Now, as I told you just now, the most important one and the widely used one is the input. With the input form element, we can ask the user to enter user ID as a text or password, choose one and only one option, check or enable many options using checkbox. Okay, so these are the values of the type attribute. The type attribute, it's a must, it's mandatory. All right, you can forget about the ID or class, but the type is a must because it will determine, or it will really create the type of your input you want to use, your user gonna use to interact with your web application. Now, HTML type values are range, and this is when you want the user to enter an integer value from a minimum value to a maximum one. So you're gonna set up an interval, and if you want the user to upload a file, you're gonna use file as a value to your type. They can upload a video, an image, any resource file. If you want to have a fancy calendar, you're gonna use date, and so on. All right, now let's go to the example number 1, and you're gonna go through all what you have talked about the form. So I'm gonna go to example number 1, and in example number 1 I have, all right, I was testing here, this is not used for now. So I have a form 1 and form 2. Alright, so I have two forms, form 1 and form 2. Form 1 is just a login form. Alright, I have an input here of type text. Remember guys, the type, and another one, let me maximize this one, and another one of type password, and I gave it a name password here. Label is just a label, and I have another input, so 3 inputs in my first form. The third one is a button, submit. Whenever you have type submit, this will play the role of a button. It's going to submit your data that are collected from your 2 inputs to your server side. Alright, I have here, I didn't close my form. Alright, it's closed now. And I have another form with other elements here. So I have input 1, 2, 3. 1 is a text, 2 are password. 1 is to enter a password, and the other one is to reconfirm the password. I have 3 input of type radio, and this is a single, an exclusive choice. You choose only one. All right. And I have a menu option here, or select with many options. And here, if you want to select many of them, I'm using multiple to select many. Okay. And of course, I would have an input of type submit to send all the data collected by the user somewhere to the server. We'll talk about the server later on. So let's go with the first one, form. And I'm going to run here in the Firefox and see my form. So this is my first form. You see guys, it's text here, and the second one is a password. Once I press login, it's going to be set and processed. Now, how is form processed? Or how do we send data? In a form, guys, remember, in a form, we have 2 things or 2 attributes very important. One is a method, and which is a method of sending data. How do we post data, or how do we get data? So the method is posting, sending data, and you have 2 values, either get or post. And we have action. Action is an attribute that tells me how we're gonna act on the data, meaning that provide the script that we process the sent data. All right, so we're gonna use method and action in our example, but first I'm gonna use a method. Now the method here of sending data, you have 2 ways, guys. You have a default one. If you don't mention anything here, it's gonna be default. All right, and the default one is a get method. The other one is called post method. All right, so let's use the get method. So the get method is this, guys. When I enter Peter, for instance, and 1, 2, 3, the moment I press login, see what happened here. This is example 1. Once I do this, my data has been sent, but it has been sent through the URL. The URL will get my data. I'm going to copy this. Control C. I'm gonna go here to the form and Control V, and I'm gonna dissect and analyze my get or my data sent using the get. So this is the file example1, and this is the URL or the start of the URL query is question mark. Then I'm gonna have a list of elements or list of couples here, always an attribute plus a value entered by the user, another attribute and the value entered by the user. By the way, can you see username is this name? Can you see the password name here is this one here in the name? Alright, I'm gonna use the same thing here for the form, the second form, guys. You see the registration form. This is the second form. So I'm gonna use same thing here. So the method is get, so I don't have really to write the method if it's get, but it's a get here, the default one. Now I'm gonna remove this name here. And I'm gonna remove the name. I don't have the name in the select, so my select, okay, and my first input have got no name. The password has a name, okay, and the retype password has got a name, and the single choice or the exclusive choice has got a name as well. So Control S. I'm gonna go here, enter the name Peter, enter password 123, another password 5, semester is 2, and multiple choices here. Now this Peter would not be saved, this won't be saved, but this and this, they will be sent using the get method. So just follow here, guys. So once I send it, what happened here, I'm gonna go to my URL and dissect or analyze my URL or my data sent through the get. I'm gonna copy them here. So this is the file name, example1, and this is the start of the query, question mark. Now I'm gonna dissect it. Okay, so it's really separate, it's a list separated by the end. And guess what, guys? User ID oh, that's the old one. That's the user name. No, what is the user ID? Man, I didn't save. Okay, save. I should be saving here. I didn't save. I'm gonna redo it again. So Sarah 123 123 4 5 6, semester 2, and some selection here. Alright, so Sarah and JavaScript PHP won't be sent, but the semester 2 and the 2 passwords, they will go through my get posting of data in the URL. Alright, so I'm gonna go here back to my file and try to redissect my query. Now can you see, guys, password is there, retype password is there, and semester is there. So password is there because there is a name, retype password is there because it's a name, and semester, which is this one, guys, not this capital letter, this name here, it's there. Notice that the select and the username here, they have not been, the data have not been collected because of the absence of the keyword name or the attribute name. Capital letter doesn't matter, okay, but I'm gonna stick with the standards here or the way I'm coding. So name and user underscore ID. I'm gonna go with this select here and I'm gonna give it a name. So name, sorry, name equal and skill list. Save. And okay, I'm gonna remove this URL here. HTML. Now enter data, Peter 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, semester 1, and 3 skills here. Send through the get. Now my URL is longer, so if I go back here and dissect my data, so this is the file name, this is the start of the query, and this is the list separated by the ampersand. Now notice guys the skill list, and notice the user ID. I call it answer or user ID, but good, it's a good exercise, or it's going to really highlight whatever I did in the name. Skill list, you see, is this guy, the name here. So what you can understand here is that if you want your data to be sent to the server, we didn't touch the server yet, or to be saved in some variable and sent to the server, you have to provide a name for your input or your form element, whether it's an input or a selection or an option or whatever. All right, so we're gonna stop here, and I'm gonna create another video. So because I want to use shorter videos. See you soon.